The CEO of game publisher Nexon would prefer it that you just assume that all games are made using generative AI tools now. Why? Why should we assume that? Why should we go along with that? What is the incentive for us, the gamer? Nexon, if you're unaware, is a game publisher that brings in
over 100 billion yen in quarterly revenue. That's almost $3 billion per year, if not more.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. See, that's a big part of the scam that's kind of taking over video games at the moment, is all of the major publishers want us to believe that it's so hard and so expensive to make video games these days that we gamers just don't understand. The problem with that is that video games are no longer a business of making a product and selling it to a consumer. It is a business of investment. It is not people who are trying to make great video games and sell them that are complaining that it's too hard and too expensive to make video games. It is investors complaining that it is too hard to keep turning an infinite scaling profit from video games. To me, that is an absolutely critical distinction to make. Because if we're going to fall for the messaging that it is too expensive and too cumbersome to make video games, then one might fall for the argument that we need to start replacing some human roles in game development and creation with generative AI. One might believe that, if it truly is that expensive, that this could save them money and we could get more video games. But one look at their finances and seeing just how much profit is being made despite widespread layoffs would make it clear money is not the issue. They are doing this to save costs, but not because they need to, but because they are greedy and as greedy as it gets. The big thing I can't just get over is we don't get anything out of this. We are so pressured right now as gamers, as the employees, as companies, whatever, to just come to terms with this new change, to deal with it, to accept this reality, this new world that we're living in. But why? Why would we do that? We're not getting anything from it. We are melting the planet, draining water supplies, building data centers that are destroying small towns, and we're not tangibly getting any benefit. It's just corporations taking more and more money. All of the messaging from CEOs, from game studios, from software companies, trying to just normalize it, to tell you that this is what's going on and you just have to learn to accept it, is to squash any form of resistance before you have a chance to form it, and then tell you that you've already been dealing with it, so it's fine. And you're just supposed to look for the upside wherever that's supposedly supposed to be at. This has recently and specifically come up in the context of Ark Raiders, a live service multiplayer shooter that uses generative AI voices for the character voices whenever you interact in the game. This has come under a lot of scrutiny, and people feel like goalposts are moving with regards to the AI conversation, when in reality, the primary goalpost that anyone is worried about has remained unchanged. Live service games are already historically very abusive to their players with regards to trying to nickel and dime every possible penny they can out of players and milk them for every dollar that they're worth. It is an industry that's designed specifically to make as much profit as possible. And yet they're cutting costs in the name of saving a dime, saving a nickel, saving a buck, to use generative AI. Yes, Ark Raiders disclosed that they use generative AI, which is one of the goalposts that was set up of something that needs to be done at a bare minimum. And yes, they appear to have ethically sourced it, which I'm actually going to cast a cloud of doubt over, but within predefined definitions, they may have ethically trained their AI on voices that were consented to in a way that doesn't violate a lot of rules that a lot of generative AI tools and the primary companies leading the industry partake in. Those goalposts are met. The core goalpost, however, is not replacing human jobs with generative AI, especially creative jobs, especially in an industry full of historically record-breaking layoffs at every corner, in an industry where job security is non-existent. Further replacing human jobs with generative AI to no real gain is the goalpost that continues to not be met by using Gen AI to do that. Now, consent is an interesting topic in the context of AI. It's often brought up as one of the goalposts of, well, you need to get the person you're training your thing on's consent. And supposedly with this game, they've gotten specific voice actors to consent to having their voice trained, and instead of paying them for their vocal work, they were just licensed as a voice model, basically. This pays less, this doesn't give them work, it doesn't give them references for future voice acting work. And in an industry where this is so common and so prevalent and taking over, those who are not super well established as like the big voice actors that are super famous and super well off already are more and more pressured into consenting to these things, because the alternative is just not getting hired at all, getting blacklisted by these publishers in the first place, and in some cases losing a job they've already had, which there have been multiple examples of. So getting consent and doing it ethically is still kind of dubious when there's a lot of unspoken pressure and behind the scenes shenanigans going on behind that kind of claim. I will say, having spoken to all of the issues of consent and everything else, I don't feel like drawing attention to the specific scenario, but I was someone who was pressured into just consenting to have my work be featured in an AI thing in exchange for it basically naming that I am the source so that I get some degree of credit from it. I wasn't paid for it, and I could have said no. I could have stuck to my values and said no, but I was pressured into it basically because the alternative is either someone else is going to get promoted and my work is still going to be stolen anyway, or my work is still just going to be stolen anyway, and I am not going to receive credit for it. And that kind of pressure creates this form of consent that isn't real. And it creates this world where, like, we're all supposed to deal with this because that's the norm, but the only people making it the norm are the ones forcing it upon us. And I don't want that for anyone. So in terms of like the financial state of things, there is literally no upside to replacing human creators in any form with generative AI. It's a market that's already full of layoffs, full of pay cuts, full of mistreatment of employees with zero job security. And we want to make that worse to save a buck in an industry that is putting up more quarterly profits than probably half of my time spent gaming the entire industry had ever made in the first place. I don't see how I could possibly be comfortable or okay with that. I don't see how anyone could. And the kind of until they came for me creep is continuing to progress. First it was concept artists, then just general 2D artists, then writers, then 3D artists, now voice actors. Like, it's just taken over all of the positions with companies that are falling into this. And it's purely driven by greed. But even from a creative standpoint, it is very limiting. It doesn't matter that the models have gotten to a point where they can be pretty convincing at replicating what a human sounds like. The creative process is a back and forth. In any creative role where you have an actor acting out a role, be it for voice, motion capture, just straight up an actor in like a movie or TV show, there is a back and forth between the writer, the director's peoples, and the person acting it. And there is a cycle and a feedback loop there of testing and tweaking and providing feedback. And so many performances, captures, voice lines, little details were made perfect through that collaboration, because the writer itself or the director themselves does not have a perfect vision that results in a perfect product. You are skimping out on a critical part of the creative process. It's hard to not get radicalized about gaming, something that should be our fun leisure hobby in 2025. There is so much going on between price hikes and tariffs that are nonsense, and jobs just being absolutely demolished in the space by greedy corporations that have taken over, that are purely using it for speculative trading and profiteering rather than building cool video games. And now AI taking over because that's where all the investment money is. And they're all just gaslighting us and lying to us so that they can save face with their investors and make more money off of what should be a pretty basic transactional exchange. That is a big part of why I've been so obsessed lately with getting control over my tech, over my online life, over my experiences, because everyone else is trying to take it away. And even the most basic acts of stepping back from those experiences is a form of resistance. I have been a huge technophile my entire life. It's been a defining part of my personality. But the last few years of tech and spying and data intrusion and AI stuff has pushed me more and more offline and more analog. Instead of playing on my phone, using social media, browsing content, I am living in my own head on pen and paper, and it has been life-changing for me. Instead of using all the creative tools that are selling their souls and trying to use my own art and creations to train some AI model so someone else can cheat to the process, Going back to paintbrushes, real art, stuff made in the physical realm. And with gaming, I'm doing it more offline. I've more or less completely abandoned multiplayer games. Live service slop is disrespectful and abusive to its players. Windows is completely intrusive and abusive to its users. I've been moving to Linux. I've been using SteamOS. I've been using various Linux distros. I've been playing offline, mostly single player or cooperative games that respect me as a player, respect my money, my budget, and my time and my feelings, and aren't trying to manipulate me into playing for longer or spending more money. And I also want to make sure that my gaming investments are with companies that are not abusing their employees either, that are not replacing them with generative AI, because there is no upside. We do not get better games for it. We only get worse games. Employees are not paid more. They're paid less or just fired entirely. There is no ethical way about it because you're replacing humans at some point. There are AI tools that can benefit lots of workflows. I do still use some of them that are integrated into creative tools that I use every day, but they're not generative AI things that replace me or replace a human being, and they're not replacing people that I would have paid for a service. And there are examples of this done right in the industry. You look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Those films were done with a lot of generative AI tools assisting the workflow. The VFX industry was one of the first ones to adopt AI-related tools to speed up tasks. But on Spider-Man, that did not replace any people. In fact, the Spider-Verse movies hired like an unprecedented amount of VFX artists. I actually know at least 2 people that worked on frames in the movie because they were just hiring everyone because it was such a massive task. And the AI tools simply benefited the workflow. It can be done in a way that benefits the workflow, but when you are talking about the context of replacing human beings, doing human roles, and getting a paycheck to pay their families for that craft, and instead replacing it with generative AI, so that companies can continue to rake in billions of dollars in profit and lay people off, or just hire them on short-term contracts and not provide them a salary and benefits, I'm sorry. There is no world in which that is acceptable, worth the trade-off, something we should assume, as the Nexon CEO greedily said. And it's not something I can support. I'm sorry. Ark Raiders could be the most fun game in the world. Not touching it. And I will leave you with this clip from a stream from Co Carnage. And I only feel comfortable with this direct of a call out because I really like Co. He's an older guy. He's been around. He's actually older than I am, so I can't even say I've been around as much as he has. He's worked for like some streaming services. He's had some of the most well-rounded perspectives and takes that I've seen in the streaming space, and since that was my main job for a long time, that I've ever seen. Like I've had a huge amount of respect for him. But even he, being a streamer who wants to play the streamer game, kind of fell into this trap.
Can I ask you an unfun question, but one that I do want to ask you?
Oh, goody, yes.
Yeah, let's see if she's excited.
There is a game that I'm really looking forward to, that I'm loving and that I really enjoy. In this game, if I point at something or talk to my team or anything, it is all done with AI voice. What would you do in that situation if you loved the game?
I would stop playing the game. I think it is no, not at all. I think it is very easy to be an ally or to support something when there is nothing to sacrifice, when there is nothing for you to lose. That's easy. That's not a sacrifice. That's not being an ally. If you stand for something, stand for it. If you don't, that's fine. There's no like judgment there, but know that that's the choice you're making.
Good to know. Wanted to hear it from a voice actor.
Yeah. If enough people did it, maybe that would create change. But you're not going to create change by just going, okay, that's fine.
I'm in the boat where I'm really looking forward to this game called Ark Raiders. It's by a big company, and they use a lot of AI voice acting. So I really want to play this game. I really want to have fun with it. But there's a very good chance that my line might be turning off all human voices in it, outside of those done by other players. Does that mean anything to someone like you, or is it like you're still supporting the game?
Because they're still doing the thing, right? They're still making the sale.
Buying the game.
And especially from your point of view, you're still getting them the publicity. They don't really care whether the non-existent actors in their game get publicity or not. What they care about is that more people will see your stream and get the game.
Yeah. That will still just promote more AI voice acting.
You can see that he's looking for permission. He's looking for an out to still play this game because it's the streamer game. It's the thing he wants to play. And Amelia Tyler makes it very clear. If you support the game financially by playing it, by spending your time on it, you are supporting them replacing humans with Gen AI. And if you are promoting it to your audience, you are doing that on an exponential level. It costs nothing to be an ally. We are spoiled for riches in terms of games. There are more games available on every single console you could possibly have and on PC than you will ever play in your entire life. You miss absolutely nothing by piecing out and not playing one, by not spending money on it, by not spending your time on a game that is abusing the industry and abusing its players, especially a live service game that's going to disappear in, what, a year, 2 years? It costs nothing to be an ally. And people will go out and do mental gymnastics to find a way to justify it in a way that just... I don't expect to change your mind if you are a hardcore multiplayer person right now. It's just one more piece of the puzzle of why so many of us that were hardcore multiplayer for a very long time are just done. We're just done. Remember, there are human beings that make games, and they deserve as much respect and fair treatment as you do at your job, or in any other aspect of your life. And remember, to be kind, rewind.